Hello everyone, if you don't know me, my name's Ryan and I'm an adventure traveler who really hasn't been traveling much since November 2019 because, of course, the global pandemic. And if you do know me or are familiar with this channel, welcome back, thank you. I know it's been a while since I've made a video. So today's video, I'm messaging you from Mexico. Yes, I did travel during the global pandemic recently. I arrived here about a week ago, and that's what I want this video to be about. To talk to you about what it was like flying and traveling during the pandemic. Also, why the hell am I traveling during a pandemic? And what am I up to and what am I doing in Mexico? Why Mexico? So those are a few topics I want to touch base on today, but first, the intro. So this is my first time in an airport in 8 months or so since I flew back to the US after the sailing season last November, around November 2019, close to my birthday. Flew to Rhode Island and I haven't flown since. I haven't been to another country since, which is pretty wild because for the past 10 years that's pretty much been my whole life, is just coming and going, usually coming back to the US for a month or so and then continuing on traveling. So yeah, it's really strange being in a US airport right now during a pandemic with no one here, no crowds or anything like that, which is nice for me. But it's also just really strange being in an environment I'm so used to, but I haven't been in for so very long, and it almost feels alien to me now. Probably because of the weight of the pandemic and everything going on, but on top of that, it's just a weird feeling going on a trip soon and going to Mexico. So I come to the airport and decided to just spend the night here, maybe stay up or doze off or do whatever, but do some work, and yeah, I'll just stick it out and wait till check-in, and then I'll be on my way to Mexico soon, which I'm super stoked for, just to get out of the US for a while, reprogram myself. Being in winter in the US for that long, I haven't really experienced that kind of winter and also that much time in the US. On top of that, the pandemic. So yeah, just this winter up in the northeast of the United States was a very rough one, and I definitely wouldn't have made it through that period of time without living with my friend and having each other to bounce, just conversations off of and everyday life and things like that, and just keep each other sane. So we'll see. Hopefully I can pass some time in this empty airport, and it should be interesting flying during the pandemic. I'm trying to take all the precautions I can. I've brought loads of sanitizer wipes, multiple masks, things like that, so trying to be as prepared as I can be. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've made it through security, and probably the fastest I've ever made it through US security. There's not very many people here. It's still like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, so of course there probably wouldn't be, but I've been in airports before where there's tons of people at this time. So yeah, it's, as you can see, completely empty. Alright, welcome back to my crib. Yes, it is a vintage Airstream, and I will give a tour on another video. This is where I'm staying for right now, for the next month or so. I'm in Tulum, Mexico, and yeah, I'll be making a video just showing you around Tulum, also maybe an MTV crib style tour of the Airstream itself. But I want to get back to the topics at hand, the topics I mentioned, and that is why the hell I was traveling during the pandemic, and the other questions as well. As you saw in the footage from the airport and traveling, there wasn't a whole lot of people around. They blocked off the middle rows, so personally I don't think that does much for the distance from someone else, because you have a person in front of you and behind you as well, and that's not too far of a distance in between you. But reducing the numbers definitely is reassuring. So the reasons why I choose to travel during the pandemic. Recently, I found out that my normal summer gig, which is working as a photographer and a media guy on sailboats in the Mediterranean, that got canned because unfortunately the travel industry has tanked because of COVID. And so that was 5 months at sea with 5 months accommodation and 5 months of work and food. That was all gone. And that was already planned, and that was in the works for me. So I had already decided to do that again for my 5th season, because I've done that for the past 4 seasons. So you can imagine how big of a chunk of time of the year for income and also stay that is removed from me. So that was a hard one to hear, and I was super bummed about that. I really didn't know what to do. I'd been in Rhode Island since November 2019, and luckily a brother from another mother let me stay at his place for that whole time, which is a blessing, because I don't know what I would have done, but for the most part also I don't know what I would have done by myself, isolating by myself, because during that time we were already going crazy. So it was really great for him to take me in and let me stay there, and also just to have someone else, both of us bouncing off each other, keeping each other somewhat sane and positive while he's working from home and whatnot. So that was just a savior pretty much for, I think, myself and maybe him, just keeping each other sane. And then to receive the news that I lost the summer job, the one that I've been always planning to go back to for this season, that was a big bummer. And it was time to go, but once I lost that, where do I go? What do I do? So because the United States is super awesome at cooperating with each other,
why can't we all just get along?
We're banned from a lot of places right now because we're not doing so good in the pandemic. There wasn't a whole lot of options for me, and personally, this might sound a little crazy, but personally, I can't afford to live in the United States on my freelance budget, my style of living, and especially now when the travel industry has completely collapsed and most of my work and my clients were travel related, so even my alternate incomes and my alternate gigs, those got canceled as well. So it was definitely a trying time, and just figuring out getting an apartment on my own during this time just seemed very, very unlikely and very difficult. I just don't have the financials for it. Most of my family and friends, they live in red zone states where right now the pandemic is running crazy, or they might be in a place like Hawaii where it's really, really closed off and unlikely that I'll be able to travel there. And then also a lot of family or family friends are older, and so having someone come into their home traveling from another state, that's just way too risky right now, health-wise. I didn't have a whole lot of options, and the options on the table for countries to travel to, because I travel for usually 8 to 10 months out of the year, probably even more, it's a lot less expensive to live abroad for me than to live in the United States. So looking at places and options for us to travel to right now, it was Serbia, which I absolutely love. Serbia is amazing. I love Belgrade, and I've always thought about getting an apartment there. Turkey, I absolutely love Turkey as well, and I've been sailing there for the past 3-4 seasons as well, so that's a stunning place. I love Istanbul. Georgia, which I've never been to, but I hear it's absolutely amazing, and one of my buddies, you might know him, Derek of the Holidays, he's thinking about moving there, so that was a reason why I was thinking of that. And Mexico, along with a bunch of other different Caribbean countries. So those were pretty much the options, and in my mind I was definitely thinking about Europe, but because Europe is so far and I want to be back in November for the important election to cast my vote, which I feel strongly about, I wanted to be close or in close proximity to the United States to come back and vote, because I've had issues trying to vote in the past while I've been abroad. So those are some of the reasons why I decided to travel during the pandemic. Basically, I just can't afford to live in the United States, on my own at least, on a freelancer's income, while I was starting to get traction before COVID, and then that kind of all came crashing down. So what was the experience traveling during the pandemic like? Well, I will say it was a bit anxiety filled. I'm not a germaphobe, and I've traveled in some dirty places.
What is it?
I think it's BO.
In some dirty modes of transport. Thinking back to the things that I've done in the past as a traveler, sleeping on benches and taking, the third class trains and things like that. That kind of stuff didn't affect me in the past, but now it's definitely, of course, on my mind. So traveling during the pandemic was, a bit worrisome. In March, I was even quite outspoken at the Joy Travelers who were like, oh yeah, tickets are cheap, let's go around the world, while the pandemic was going crazy around the world and it was running rampant. And I was like, no, that's stupid. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be in terms of how organized it was, because there wasn't a whole lot of people at the airport. I flew with JetBlue, and there was really no one in the airport the night before. I slept at the airport, sitting in the chair that I had sanitized upright with my head like this. Wasn't anyone around at that time except for some cleaning staff, which was really weird because the cleaning staff weren't really wearing masks. So I think it was very lax on that part. After check-in, we went through, and it was the fastest check-in I've ever had through United States security for border control and stuff. It was super fast. I think it was probably faster than that special status that you get to just go right through the line. That's how fast it was. So that was pretty nice. But also there was nothing open. No shops, nothing open food-wise, except what America runs on, Dunkin'. And I'll say I got there before it opened, probably around 5:30ish. And luckily I was the first in line because the only place open. And after I got my coffee and my food, it was packed. It was probably 40 people deep in line, and it would have been probably 45-minute wait. So that's something to remember if you do end up traveling during this time. Get to Dunkin' Donuts early. Once we were in the area of the gate, there wasn't really many people around. I could really just sit at a table that I sanitized, of course, and there was just scarce people. So while I was going around, every time I touched something, I sanitized my hands. I had hand sanitizer on me, a little travel one, and also I had wet wipes or sanitizer wipes as well, a whole giant pack of them. So I was really diligent about sanitizing everything. I was wearing my mask the whole time unless I was drinking water or drinking coffee. What was really nice is that JetBlue was super diligent about explaining their procedures and what they do in between flights and how they sanitize things, and also their rules for flying. And the main rule, of course, is wearing your mask the whole time, the whole flight, no matter what, unless you're taking a drink or eating your snack. One instance on one of the JetBlue flights, someone wasn't wearing a mask. He came on board, and when they told him that he had to wear a mask, he kind of made a big deal about it and said he didn't have one, which is absolutely crazy. Like, just wear a mask. You're flying. Just wear a mask. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, he made a big stink about it, but they got the masks from their own stock and gave him one and made him wear it, and so that was good. Or they probably would have kicked him off. And then when I got on the flight, each flight I got on, I made sure to wipe down my seats and everything I imagined myself touching.
Hi! It's my first day out in the world!
And yes, you can think that's a bit extreme. And also, on top of that, I would have thought it was really extreme. In the past, if I saw someone sanitizing their seat and doing all of that and wearing masks and stuff, I would have been like, look at this guy. But now, during this time, it just makes sense. Like, thinking about how dirty things were in the past and how many people touched things, and also during the global pandemic, I'm just going to wipe everything down and just do everything I can, be very stringent about everything, just to protect myself and also protect others. That's just the bottom line, and that's my standard. So I was happy to see a lot of airlines enforcing things like that and explaining what to do if you are sanitizing your seat and your tray tables and stuff, to make sure to wait until they come around with the bag to put it in the trash bag, so it's not just a bunch of wet wipes laying around the airplane. And then during the flight, I really didn't eat or snack, anything like that. I drank my water. That was water that I brought with me. And yeah, for the most part, I just didn't accept any of the snacks. It was a super short flight, and I made sure to eat some snacks beforehand. But that was pretty much it. So the flying part of it was pretty comfortable, even though I was, a germaphobe. Going to the bathroom and stuff, making sure to grab the handles with a paper towel and things like that. So there's just little things that you can do to make sure that you are the safest as possible. And some people might think it's crazy, but it actually just doesn't do anything against you. Like, all the things that I'm doing, it takes an extra second, maybe an extra step in my day or travel routine, but it really doesn't delay me that much or make my life difficult. So why not do it? So that's a little bit about how the flying experience and travel experience during times of COVID was. Now, when I got to Mexico, instead of paying the $150 taxi, I thought, okay, I'm gonna take the bus, because that's just what I've always done. Take the bus, take the cheapest option, even if it takes me 4 hours versus 1 hour. I probably shouldn't have. The bus, when I got on board, it was near empty, and I was like, oh, this is so great. But then, of course, the bus filled up when we pulled to a different part of the airport. So the bus was packed. There was no one sitting next to me, but I wore my mask the whole time and sanitized my seat and all that. Then it ended up taking me about 8 hours to get to Tulum, because I didn't know that it stopped off in Playa del Carmen, and I had to get on another bus. And then getting on that bus, I tried to pay card, because the guy at the airport said, oh, don't worry, everyone takes card here, you don't need any cash. And so when I got to the other bus station, they're like, sorry, we don't take card if it's within 45 minutes or an hour of the next bus, which is kind of crazy. So I looked all around with packs and all around Playa del Carmen, and couldn't find a working ATM. So eventually I had to go back and book a bus with my credit card. That was an hour and a half later. So I got a bite to eat, got on that bus, which was pretty packed as well, and there was no one next to me. In my head, that time that I wasted, the sweatiness and just the experience, taking a $50, $100, $150 taxi or shuttle would have been way better, especially in this time. So if you're traveling, don't go the public transport route if you can afford it, because A, it's risky, and B, it might be disorganized, especially during this time, or it might have less times that things are running, so it'll just be a huge hassle. But I'd say the overall experience was better than I expected traveling during the pandemic. Which comes to the next part. Why did I choose Mexico? Well, I touched on that a little bit before, because Mexico is close enough to the United States where I can fly back in November so I can cast my vote, or come back before November to cast my vote, because traveling to Georgia, Turkey, or Serbia, and then coming back, and then potentially going back there after the holidays, would just be an enormous amount of money, and it's not something I'm prepared to do right now. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I chose Mexico. Another reason why I chose Mexico was because a friend and fellow blogger, Christine, had mentioned that she was considering doing Mexico, and I started to look into it, and it just seemed like the COVID numbers were low, the precautions that they were taking were very high, and also it was super cheap at the moment. There wasn't big tourist crowds like there usually is around Tulum, and usually Tulum is super expensive, so prices were lower. So I was like, oh, yeah, that kind of seems like an idea I could run with, and I started to look more into it, and it just seemed like the best option at the moment for me. for something I could afford on the work that I'm doing right now. It just seemed like the best option out of all the ones that I had, because the United States, unfortunately, as an American citizen, wasn't an option for me right now. Yeah, so those are some reasons why I chose Mexico and chose Tulum. So far, it's absolutely great, but it's super sticky here, really humid. We've had a lot of rain coming through, and the heat is insane. I change probably about 2-3 times a day. I've done laundry twice a week since I've gotten here, and I shower probably 2-3 times a day, because you go out and you go walking and you come back and you're just drenched. So yes, it's very, very hot here. I haven't really done much because I've been catching up on freelance work and trying to secure more clients and alternate incomes, just so I can be a little bit more stable. I can stay in one place without having to worry about moving around so much. And also just, it'll be nice to have a base so I can work properly and focus without bouncing around like I normally do when I'm traveling. So it could be a couple months here, or it could be a couple more months in a different part of Mexico, but for now, I'm here in Mexico, and I'm going to be just really focusing on catching up on that freelance work, hopefully doing some of my own creative stuff, maybe some vlogs, and also getting back into the blogging. I haven't focused on creative things in a long time. Isolating was very tough on me, mentally and creatively. I think physically as well, probably. Obviously, I've said it was a blessing to be with a friend, family friend, brother from another mother in Rhode Island, staying with him this whole time. I really don't know what I would have done. But being in my first winter in the United States in the far northeast, that's already a bit depressing as it is because of the weather, but then being isolated and not going outside for months on end, or not really interacting with other people, that was really tough. And I'm sure everyone has their varying levels of experiences, and I'm sure there are so many people that were in way worse experiences and situations than me. But for myself, it was a hard time to just sometimes get out of bed. I would lay in bed sometimes till 3-4 p.m. I couldn't really create. I couldn't really think properly. I had to cancel all of my news apps and social media because everything around politics and COVID was just destroying me mentally. So that was a very rough winter, and also coming to terms with being in the United States for a long time, after traveling for the good amount of 8 years, and really traveling for most of the year the past 4 years. So suddenly stopping and halting in my tracks and then being isolated, that was just not my lifestyle that I'm used to, and I didn't know how badly it would affect my mood, but it did, definitely affected my mood, and that was a rough few months. So I really attribute getting that through to my friends that I was staying with, and family, and people just keeping in touch and sharing the encouragement and stuff like that, because that's all we can do. If we can't get together with each other, if we can't travel to visit each other, or travel mostly for the joy of it and things like that, you really just have to look to your base, reach out to friends and family, and get back in touch with them, or keep in touch with them, because that's going to keep you sane. That's going to keep the world sane. That definitely kept me sane. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'll be doing in Mexico. Some of the reasons why I traveled during the pandemic. It's not something I took lightly, and even though I absolutely love traveling, not once during the pandemic did I want to take a flight just for the hell of it, to take a vacation. And yes, it's amazing to be away from the United States and traveling again, and in my normal, which is weird, but in my normal kind of situation, in my normal lifestyle, it's also on my mind, thinking that I just don't want to get into the fact that, oh yeah, I'll go here, you know? So that's just a little bit of my thoughts behind this. For me, I am absolutely no expert in sometimes travel as well, but in health and things like that. But these are just precautions I took. And I think I'm going to make another video just talking about the things that I feel will make a journey more comfortable and safer for you and everyone else if you are to travel during the pandemic. So I'll make a video with that. Hopefully some more videos updating you on things that I'm up to, showing you around the beautiful place of Tulum. Right now it's absolutely stunning. I really like the graffiti, the vibrancy of it. It's very active, and it's also super safe for the most part. What I love about Tulum and what I'm seeing around Mexico is that Mexicans aren't complaining about masks for the most part. Everyone's wearing it. Like, even in the small stands, or even when people are walking in the street at night, when I would expect it'd be easy just to be like, yep, I'm not going to wear my mask. No one else is around. People are wearing their masks, which is awesome to see because it seems like it's impossible to get people to do that in the United States. Also, when you go into restaurants, they sanitize your hands, so they give you hand sanitizer and they take your temperature. So I'd say 90% of the restaurants and cafes and stuff like that here where you're going to eat, they have a device to take your temperature and require a mask when you're coming in. And the tables are usually spread far enough apart so you have good social distancing. And then they encourage you to sanitize whenever you get up at the table, wear your mask whenever you get up to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So it seems like a lot of people are doing their part. I do see other people, mostly tourists and expats, not wearing masks or wearing a bandana or something like that, or walking around with just no precaution. So you do see a handful of that, but there are a lot of travelers and expats here that are doing their part and just abiding by the rules. That's the law here in Mexico right now for the masks. So yeah, it feels good to be traveling again abroad, in my element, doing it for the most part as safely as I can, and yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit, but this was just a bit of an impromptu video chat, and I haven't done this in a while, so I hope you watched the end. If you liked the video, if you want to see more, hit the like button, because I'm going to try to get more into this still. And subscribe if you enjoy the video. Please, if you have any questions at all, shoot them in the comments. If you are a mask conspiracy theorist, please don't comment.
Can't even zip it. Zip.
Because, yeah, I don't want to get into politics and things like that on here. I don't want to get into conspiracies and stuff. I mean, bottom line is I'm traveling, and if you're traveling or if you're in another country, wear a mask. That's the basic thing you can do. So yeah, don't want to have any comments about conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But if you're just a rad person, or if you want to have a question, if you want some advice or some of my experience traveling, just shoot them in the comments below and I'd be happy to answer them. And for now, I'm going to head out. It's getting a bit hot here and I need to turn back on my air conditioning. So I'm going to head out, do something creative today. And I hope you all are safe and you have an amazing day, and you and your loved ones are safe and healthy. And I hope to see you around this channel again soon. Have a rad day. Oh, tell you one thing, sitting cross-legged for that whole time, that really hurts.